The fire and the silence, the rain had not come for days. Instead, the air hung thick with heat and smoke, creeping over the roads like a slow-moving curse. Keanu Reeves drove through a narrow back road on the outskirts of a forgotten town, where rusted fences leaned into dried-up fields and trees stood like skeletons against the dying sky. He wasn't here for a role or a film shoot. He was simply passing through, hoping for silence for a little time alone. His motorcycle rumbled low beneath him, a rare vintage build he had restored himself. He didn't expect anything that day. No interviews, no autographs, no eyes watching. But the world has a strange way of handing you purpose when you least expect it. Just as the road twisted around a hill, he smelled it. Burning rubber, gasoline, and something sharper. Something alive. He slowed down, eyes narrowing behind his tinted helmet visor. Smoke curled through the trees ahead. And then he saw it. A car. Overturned. Flames licking out from the windows. The front end had smashed into a tree, crumpling, the hood like paper. But it wasn't the fire that struck him like lightning. It was the scream. A woman's voice. Distant, muffled, but full of terror. Keanu dropped the bike without thought. His boots hit the gravel as he ran toward the wreck. Flames spit heat against his skin. Broken glass littered the ground. He circled to the passenger's side where the ducker had warped inward, and that's when he saw her, a bride. Her dress scorched, white fabric turned black at the edges. She was strapped inside, no, chained. Heavy metal cuffs wrapped around her wrists bolted into the seat frame. Her veil was torn, her makeup smeared with soot and tears. Help, please. Her voice cracked like dry leaves underfoot. Keanu didn't ask questions. Not yet. He tried. The door. Locked. Fused from heat. The flames grew behind the dashboard, crawling toward her feet. Every second mattered. He sprinted back to his bike, ripped open the emergency kit from the saddlebag, and returned with a crowbar. His fingers burned against the metal as he jammed it between the door and the twisted frame. The bride screamed again, shielding her face from sparks. "Stay with me," Keanu shouted, voice calm but strong. "Look at me. You're not dying today." He pried the door open inch by inch, teeth clenched, arms shaking with the effort. The metal shrieked like a wounded animal, but it gave way. Finally, the door cracked loose. He reached inside. The cuffs were real. Steel, thick like something from a prison cell. His heart dropped. "Who would do this? Who did this to you?" he asked, fumbling with the chains. I don't know," she stammered. "I was supposed to get married. Then everything went black. I woke up here." He didn't have time to dig for answers. The flames were now eating into the seat cushion. He grabbed a wrench, jammed it into the bolt, and twisted. It took everything he had, but the lock snapped. "Free!" Keanu pulled her out as the car roared behind them, a monster catching fire to its own rage. He carried her through the smoke, boots slipping over the gravel until they were far enough to fall to the ground. Together, they both coughed violently. Ash clung to their skin. The bride lay on her back, staring at the sky, broken and breathless. "You're real," she whispered. "I thought I was hallucinating." "You're not," Keanu replied, still catching his breath. "You're safe now. What's your name?" "Isla," she said, closing her eyes. "My name is Isla." The car exploded behind them, sending a wave of heat over their backs. Keanu didn't flinch. He stayed beside her, shielding her body with his own like he'd done 100 times in movies, only this time it was real. When the flames died down to smoke and the silence returned, Keanu called for help. No signal. Of course, he looked around. The road was deserted, not a single car in sight. The town was still miles away. He took off his jacket, wrapped it around Isla, and gently helped her sit up. "We have to move." "Can you walk?" She tried, stumbled. Pain etched deep in her eyes. "Barely." He nodded. "Then I'll carry you." And he did. With the sun setting behind them and ash falling like black snow, Keanu Reeves walked toward the unknown, a broken bride in his arms and a question burning in his mind. Who would chain a woman in her wedding dress and leave her to burn? Alive? And more importantly, were they watching? Whispers in the smoke. The walk was long. Too long. Keanu's legs burned as he moved across uneven dirt and broken road, carrying Isla in his arms, the heat of the explosion still lingering in the air like a ghost that wouldn't let go. She wasn't heavy, not in the physical sense, but the weight of what had happened pressed into him like a storm cloud that refused to lift. Isla leaned her head against his shoulder, her breath shallow, chest rising in trembling waves. Her white dress was ruined, stained with blood, sweat, and soot. Her feet were bare, scraped and bruised. There were burn marks along her wrists where the cuffs had held her captive. Her eyes remained half-closed, barely holding onto consciousness. But what haunted Keanu more than anything was the silence. No sirens, no passing cars, no wind in the trees, only the sound of his boots hitting gravel and the soft groans that Isla couldn't hide. He tried to keep her awake. "Tell me something," he said gently. "Anything. Your favorite memory. Your favorite song. Anything to keep you with me." Her eyes fluttered. For a moment he thought she hadn't heard him, then softly she spoke. "My dad used to sing. Moon River. Every time we took a road trip," she whispered. "He said it made the sky feel less lonely." Keanu smiled sadly. "That's a good one. I remember that song too." He kept walking, but something shifted in him. This wasn't just a rescue. This was the beginning of something deeper, something far from ordinary. The chains, the way the car had been set up to burn, and the precision, it wasn't random. It was planned. An hour passed, maybe more. They were still nowhere near help. He knew he couldn't push much farther without rest. Finally, up ahead, he saw an old gas station. Broken windows, tilted sign, vines growing through the brick. It looked abandoned, but it was shelter. He stepped inside through the shattered door frame, easing Isla down onto a dusty bench near the counter. The inside smelled of oil, rust, and time. Old flyers hung on the wall, yellowed and curling at the corners. A payphone hung crookedly in the back, wires exposed. He gently touched her forehead. Fevered. He searched the station, found a first aid kit behind the counter, and returned with bandages and a bottle of water. He cleaned her wounds, wrapped her wrists with as much care as his trembling hands would allow. Every touch made her wince, but she didn't cry. "Thank you," she whispered. Keanu nodded. "You're safe for now. But we need to figure out what happened to you." She opened her eyes wider, just enough to meet his. "I was supposed to get married this morning," she said, voice shaking. "His name is Daniel. We were getting ready at a small chapel north of the town. Then, I was in the dressing room. Someone knocked on the door. I opened it and everything went black." Keanu leaned in, focused. "Do you remember seeing anyone? Hearing anything?" She shook her head slowly. "Just the sound of something metallic. And then, I woke up, in the car, in the chains. The flames were already growing." He frowned. "You didn't recognize any voices?" "No, but there was a smell. Cologne. Bitter, like burnt flowers and ash." Keanu didn't answer at first. He stood and looked out the window, towards the smoke still rising in the far-off sky. This wasn't a kidnapping. It wasn't a robbery. Someone had meant to erase her. Not just kill her, destroy her. And that meant it was personal. He turned back to her. "We'll find whoever did this, I promise." Before she could answer, the silence broke. Not outside, but inside. A soft click. Keanu's head snapped toward the corner of the station. A camera. A small, blinking red light tucked into the corner of the ceiling, mostly hidden behind a light fixture. It was active. He moved toward it, climbing onto a stool to inspect it. Definitely powered. Definitely recording. But why would an abandoned gas station have a working security camera? He followed the wire, traced it through the ceiling tiles and down the back wall. It led into a locked metal cabinet behind the shelves. He forced it open with a screwdriver he'd found earlier. Inside was a portable battery pack, a small Wi-Fi router, and a flash drive. His blood ran cold. This was no random setup. Someone had been watching. He took the flash drive, unplugged it carefully, then pocketed it. He turned back to Isla. "Someone knew we'd come here," he said softly. Her eyes widened. "They're watching us?" He nodded slowly. "They might be." The moment felt heavy, as if someone, somewhere, had already written this scene and they were just actors in a twisted play. Then came the noise outside. A crunch. Tires on gravel. Slow. Keanu moved quickly to the window. A black SUV pulled up and stopped just short of the doorway. Windows tinted, engine idling. "Stay down," he whispered, stepping away. He reached into his jacket where he kept a pocket knife. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. He crouched beside the entrance, heart pounding. The door creaked open. A man stepped in. Tall. Dark clothes. Expression blank like a mannequin. He scanned the station, then stepped forward. Keanu acted. He grabbed the man by the arm, twisted hard, and slammed him against the wall. The knife pressed just under the man's chin. "Who are you?" Keanu growled. The man didn't flinch, didn't speak, just stared. Keanu shoved harder. "You followed us here. Who sent you?" The man's lips parted. His voice was soft. "Strange. She wasn't supposed to survive." Keanu's grip tightened. "Who are you working for?" But the man didn't answer. Instead, he moved fast, too fast. He shoved Keanu backward and reached into his coat. Keanu kicked the weapon out of his hand before it cleared. They struggled. Fists, elbows, the sound of bones hitting bone. Keanu's training kicked in, sharp and precise. Every move like a memory from another life. Finally, the man was down, unconscious. Keanu tied his hands with a cord from the tool drawer and dragged him to a corner. Isla watched, frightened but awake now. "They know you're alive," Keanu said, breath ragged. "And they're not done." She nodded, eyes glassy with fear. "What do we do now?" she asked. Keanu looked at the flash drive in his hand, then at the man on the floor. "We find the truth," he said. "And we fight back." The flash drive and the forgotten chapel. The rain finally returned that night, but not gently. It slammed against the roof of the abandoned gas station in waves, loud and wild, as if the sky itself had been waiting for the perfect moment to scream. Thunder rolled across the hills. Lightning flashed in violent streaks, turning the trees outside into silhouettes of bones. Keanu sat across from the unconscious man tied in the corner. The stranger's head hung low, blood from a shallow cut trailing down his temple. Isla lay resting on the bench nearby, her head cradled against a rolled-up coat. Breath steady now, but shallow. She had spoken very little since the fight, and Keanu didn't blame her. The kind of fear she carried wasn't the type that passed quickly. It settled deep, hid in the corners of the mind, and waited for quiet moments to return like a whisper. But Keanu couldn't afford to rest. Not yet. He had the flash drive now, and every part of his gut told him it held answers. Real ones. He needed a way to access it. The gas station had no working electronics beyond that strange setup in the cabinet, so he stepped outside and searched the trunk of the black SUV. It wasn't locked. Inside, he found something unexpected. Not weapons, not tools, but a laptop. Sleek. Powered. Waiting. He carried it back into the gas station, shut the door behind him, and sat on the floor. He plugged in the flash drive and watched as the screen flickered. Folders. 6 of them, each named by a number, 01 through 06. Keanu opened the first one. Inside was a video file. He clicked play. The screen filled with static, then resolved into an image. A room. White walls, sterile light. A woman sat in a chair, hands bound in front of her. It wasn't Isla, but someone else, young, shaking. Behind her, a man in black, like the one Keanu had just fought, stood still, arms crossed. There was no sound, just silence, and then a line of text appeared across the bottom. Subject, Amelia Rose. Session 2. Failure. Keanu's skin crawled. He clicked the second folder. Another video. A man this time. Older, bearded, eyes wide with fear. The same cold setting. Another label. Subject, Devin Yates. Session 3. Failure. Keanu opened folder 3. Subject, Isla Madden. Session 4. Active. His heart stopped. The video loaded slowly. It showed Isla in her wedding dress, slumped in the back of the burning car, camera angle fixed on her face, unmoving. There were no sounds, but her expression, the confusion, the rising panic, was unmistakable. The recording continued until flames danced at the edges of the screen and the footage cut out. Keanu sat frozen. Someone had filmed her inside. The car before it caught fire, and not from a distance, from inside, like they had planned to watch her die. He closed the laptop, his jaw clenched tight. He stood and walked toward the unconscious man, then poured water from the bottle over his head. The man stirred, blinked, coughed. Confusion turned to fear when he saw Keanu's face above him. "You're going to tell me everything," Keanu said quietly, voice like iron. "Or I'll make you wish I left you in that fire." The man hesitated, eyes scanning the room. "They'll kill me," he muttered. "They already tried to kill her," Keanu snapped, pointing toward Isla. "You don't understand," the man whispered. "This goes beyond her. Beyond me. It's a trial, a purge. They think they're saving people." Keanu knelt down, eyes locked with his. "Who are they?" The man swallowed. His lips trembled. "A group, not official, ex-military, some scientists. They call themselves the Veil. They believe society is rotting from the inside. They find people who've failed, broken marriages, addiction, trauma, anything they think makes someone weak. They take them, test them. If the person survives, they say they're worthy of a second life. If they don't," he didn't finish the sentence. Keanu's stomach turned. So Isla was what? A target? Because she had a fight with her fiancé? The man nodded. They intercepted messages, thought she was unstable, emotional. They were going to erase her and make it look like an accident. "And the recordings?" Keanu asked. "Proof. They document everything, to study how people break." Keanu stood up slowly, his fists clenched. This wasn't just cruelty. It was systematic. They weren't just trying to kill people. They were testing their capacity to survive horror, like animals in a cage. He looked at Isla, still unconscious, unaware of how deeply someone had tried to erase her. He turned back to the man. "Where are they now?" "They move often," the man said. But their last sight was the chapel, the same one she was supposed to be married in. They repurposed it. Keanu's blood ran cold. "Then that's where I'm going," he said. The road to the chapel was narrow, overgrown, and nearly invisible from the main highway. The man, whose name turned out to be Ellis, had given directions under heavy threat, swearing that there would be no one there now. The Veil didn't stay in one place long, but Keanu wasn't looking for them. He was looking for answers. He parked the SUV at the edge of the forest and continued on foot, leaving Isla safely behind, locked in the back with food, water, and a burner phone. She had begged to come, but her wounds were still too fresh. She had finally agreed, only if he promised to return. The chapel appeared through the trees like something out of a dream, or a nightmare. What had once been a house of peace now looked like a forgotten altar to something far darker. Vines crawled over its wooden frame. The stained glass windows were shattered. The steeple tilted like it might fall at any moment. And yet, the front door stood open. Keanu stepped inside. The scent of old wood and decay hit him first. Then something worse. Chemicals, like cleaning agents, like blood had been scrubbed clean. The pews were still in place, but some were broken as if dragged violently. The altar had been stripped of any religious symbols, replaced with a metal table and a stack of plastic folders. Overhead, security cameras pointed down. He searched the room. careful not to touch anything without gloves. There were folders labeled with names. Some he recognized from the flash drive. Others were new. And then he found a picture, a photo of Isla, printed and clipped to a file. Under it, a summary. Subject 4. Unstable emotional baseline. High risk. Procedure. Accelerated exposure to isolation and flame. Chain protocol engaged. He stared at the words, horrified. They hadn't even used her name, just subject. A file in a machine. Then, beneath the file, he found a list. Names with red lines through them. Amelia Rose. Devin Yates. Elena Torres. Danico then. Isla Madden circled. No line. His phone buzzed. A message from the burner he'd left with Isla. 4 words. They found me. Hurry. Keanu turned and ran. The chase through firelight, Keanu ran. The chapel behind him blurred into the shadows of the trees as he sprinted down the dirt path, heart pounding, lungs aching. The message from Isla echoed in his mind like a scream that wouldn't stop. They found me. Hurry. He didn't know how many there were, or how they had tracked her so quickly, but he knew one thing. The veil didn't fail often. And when they did, they came back stronger, faster, more vicious. The forest seemed to move with him, branches clawing at his arms, leaves slashing his skin, but he didn't stop. The road back to the car stretched longer than before, cursed by panic. Each step felt like it carried the weight of another second lost. When he finally broke through the clearing, the black SUV was still there. But something was wrong. The back door was open. Keanu's stomach dropped. He drew his knife without thinking, creeping low as he approached the vehicle. The rain had slowed, now a soft drizzle that turned everything to slick shadows and glistening silence. No movement inside. The burner phone lay on the ground, screen cracked. The front windshield had a bullet hole, clean, precise. He rushed to the back seat. Empty. Only a smear of blood on the edge of the seat cushion. For a moment, the world stopped. His breath caught in his throat. Rage and dread twisted together inside him. He had promised her. He had sworn to protect her. And now, she was gone, again, but then something caught his eye, a note, scribbled in pen across the inside of the windshield. She's not dead. Yet. 3 words underlined beneath. Come find us. Keanu clenched his fists so hard his nails bit into skin. They were taunting him. Whoever had come, they had left the car behind. On purpose, they wanted him to follow. It was a trap, obvious, cruel. But he had no choice. He turned to the trees again, scanned the muddy ground. Footprints partially washed by the rain led northeast, deeper into the woods. 2 sets, one heavy, boots, the other lighter. Barefoot, Isla. He took off running once more. Every step was a war between fear and fury. Flashes of the burning car surged through his mind. The chains, the smoke, the look on her face. And now this. Someone dragging her barefoot through the cold, wet forest like she was cargo, not human. Branches slapped his face. Roots clawed at his ankles. The sky darkened overhead as storm clouds curled into themselves again. Thunder began its distant chant. And still, Keanu ran, until he found the cabin. It stood alone, half-collapsed, its wooden walls sagging with time and moisture. A single light burned inside, soft and flickering. He slowed now, cautious, circling to the back. He didn't go straight to the door. That's what they'd expect. Instead, he crept along the side, careful not to snap twigs underfoot. Through a crack in the boards, he peered inside. What he saw turned his stomach. Isla sat in a chair, tied again, but not chained this time. Ropes across her arms and ankles, her dress now soaked and torn. She was conscious, head bowed, lips moving, praying maybe, or whispering something to herself. And behind her a figure paced. Not Ellis this time. Someone new, taller, lean, wearing a hooded coat and gloves. Keanu couldn't see his face, but his posture was calm, collected, as if this wasn't violence, just routine. There was a table nearby, knives laid out. Duct tape, a video camera already recording. Keanu didn't wait. He moved to the rear window, pried it open silently, and slipped inside. The man didn't hear him. Keanu approached from behind like a shadow made flesh. Every part of his body focused on silence, precision. The moment the man turned, Keanu struck. They crashed against the wall, the table clattering over. Blades scattered across the floor. The man was fast, trained, but not faster than desperation. Keanu drove his elbow into the man's ribs, followed by a knee to the stomach. The hood fell back and Keanu saw his face. Young, clean-cut, emotionless. Not the look of a killer, more like a student. Someone doing what he was told. Who sent? You? Keanu growled, pinning the man against the wall. The man didn't answer. Keanu twisted his arm, hard. Who sent you? We are the cure, the man said through clenched teeth. You're the disease. Keanu slammed him unconscious with a single punch. Then he turned to Isla. She looked up at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. You came back. He moved fast, cutting the ropes, lifting her into his arms again. Always, he whispered. She buried her face into his chest, sobbing quietly, her whole body shaking. They were going to film it, she said. Again, make it look like I did it to myself? They won't, Keanu said, stepping over the body. Not ever again. He carried her back through the trees as the storm finally broke loose. Rain poured in heavy curtains, washing away the blood and sweat and fear, at least for now. The sky cracked with thunder. Lightning danced between the branches, but Keanu never slowed. He found an old ranger station near the cliffside, boarded up but strong enough to shield them. He laid her on a cot, wrapped her in blankets, started a fire with soaked logs and steady hands. For the first time in hours, she slept. Real sleep. Not unconsciousness or fear, just rest. Keanu sat beside her and finally allowed himself to breathe. But he knew it wasn't over. There were still folders on that flash drive. Still files waiting to be opened. Names waiting to be read. And more. Importantly, the Veil knew who he was now. They hadn't expected him. They hadn't planned for Keanu Reeves to be the one to walk into their machine. But now that he had, they would come. And next time they wouldn't send a boy in a hood. They would send monsters. The mirror behind the mask. The fire crackled low in the ranger's station, casting soft shadows across the walls. Outside, the rain had slowed to a whisper, tapping gently on the tin roof like a memory trying to get in. The smell of smoke, wet earth, and something older lingered in the air, the scent of fear that hadn't fully faded. Keanu sat near the fire, legs crossed, eyes fixed on the small flame. His jacket hung beside the door, soaked and dripping. His boots steamed from the heat, but he wasn't focused on the cold, or the ache in his back, or even the blood-stained knife he had placed gently on the table beside him. He was watching her. Isla slept under the thick wool blanket, curled tightly, as if afraid the world might still reach for her in her dreams. Even now, safe in the silence, her body trembled. Every few minutes her fingers twitched. Her breath caught. She whispered things. Fragments of memories maybe, or pieces of something she didn't want to. Remember, he knew that look. He had seen it in war zones, in battered shelters, in the faces of children who had lost everything. Trauma didn't need time. It only needed one sharp moment. And this, what they had done to her. It had left a mark that no fire could burn. Away. Keanu stood slowly and walked to the table. He pulled the flash drive from his pocket and plugged it into the laptop once more. The folders blinked to life. The ones he had opened before still glowed. But one remained untouched. Folder 06. No subject name. No label. Just a single video file. He hesitated, then clicked it. The screen turned black for a moment. Then a voice filled the room. Hello, Mr. Reeves? Keanu froze. On screen, a man appeared, seated behind a desk. Clean-shaven, gray suit, blue eyes that didn't blink enough. He looked ordinary, forgettable. The kind of man you'd pass in a hotel lobby and never remember. But something behind his eyes, something razor sharp, made Keanu's skin crawl. I imagine by now you've seen what we're capable of. The man continued. You've saved her. Well done. Most subjects don't make it this far. But you're not most people, are you? Keanu's jaw tightened. You see? The man went on, folding his hands calmly. The veil wasn't born out of hate. We were born out of disappointment. Disappointment in a world that celebrates weakness, that glorifies chaos. Our mission is simple. Remove the rot and raise the worthy. He leaned forward. And Isla was never meant to be one of the worthy. But you've made things complicated. The screen cut to black. A moment later, a new image appeared. A list of names. Not victims. Not subjects. Participants. Actors. Donors. Keanu's name was not on the list, but another caught his eye. Daniel Madden. He stared at the screen. Daniel, the man Isla was supposed to marry. Her fiancé. Her future. The one who had never come looking for her. The one who, according to this document, had funded the Veil's program. Keanu felt the world shift beneath him. He stood up, walked to the fire, and stared into the flames as if they could burn away the truth. Isla's voice broke the silence. You found something, she whispered. He turned. She was awake now. Eyes swollen from sleep, hair tangled across her face. She sat up slowly, wincing from the pain in her side. Keanu walked over and crouched beside her. You need to hear this, he said. He replayed the video. He showed her the name. At first she didn't move. Then her lips parted, a single breath escaping like she'd been stabbed. Daniel, she whispered. No, that's not possible. I double-checked, Keanu said gently. His name is all over the files, funding reports, transfer logs. He wasn't just involved, he paid for it. She shook her head, hands trembling. He said he loved me. He cried when he proposed. He said he'd wait forever. Tears welled in her eyes. How could he do this? Keanu didn't answer. There were no words, only betrayal. And now, something more dangerous than grief. Purpose. Isla looked up, wiping her face. We need to find him. Keanu nodded. We will. She stood shakily, leaning on the wall. Not later, she said. Now. The next few hours were a storm of motion. Keanu packed the laptop, the flash drive, the files. He found a change of clothes in the Ranger's supply closet. Old, faded jeans and a hoodie for Isla. He wrapped her feet in gauze and boots 2 sizes too big. He didn't argue when she insisted on coming with him. They drove through the night. No headlights, no music. Just the soft hum of tires on wet asphalt and the unspoken vow between them. They didn't know where Daniel was, but Keanu knew how to find ghosts. He made a call to someone he trusted, an old friend, a tech analyst in Vancouver, who owed him favors from darker days. Within 30 minutes, he had it. Daniel's last known address. A lakeside estate. Private. Security. Hidden behind a wall of silence and wealth. Not anymore. As they neared the estate, dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in soft orange and bruised purple. The lake shimmered with cold beauty. Birds stirred in the trees. Everything looked peaceful, untouched, but they knew better. Keanu parked the SUV near the base of the hill. They would go on foot from here. Isla checked the knife Keanu had given her, nodding once. He saw the change in her. She was still afraid, still hurt. But now, she was something else too. Not a victim, a survivor, a storm waiting to speak. They moved, silently through the trees, approaching the estate from the west side where the shadows were deepest. The house was modern, all glass and stone, a structure that screamed wealth without warmth. Inside those walls was a man who had bought her pain, who had sold her for science, and soon he would face what he built. Ashes never lie. The sky was a faded silver by the time Keanu and Isla reached the edge of the estate. The world around them was quiet, but not peaceful. There was a different kind of silence here, the kind that felt arranged, curated, as if someone had cleaned the air too well. The house loomed in front of them like a statue built from lies, cold glass reflecting the morning light, stone walls too perfect to be real. The lake behind it shimmered like nothing bad had ever happened here. But something had, and now, something was coming back for answers. Keanu crouched behind the edge of the fence, scanning the perimeter. Cameras in the corners, silent red lights, blinking like steady heartbeats. 2 guards at the front gate, another near the garage. Professional, but not paranoid. These were men who didn't expect a reckoning, not from a woman they left chained in a burning car, not from a man they thought was just an actor. Isla knelt beside him, breathing carefully. Her hair was tied back, her face pale but focused. There was no trace of the trembling girl from the fire. Now, there was only the truth inside her, sharp, bitter, and waiting to be spoken. "We go around the back," Keanu whispered. "The kitchen entrance is blind on one side. Once we're in, we find Daniel. We get proof, and we finish this." She nodded once. "I don't want him to run," she said. "He won't," Keanu replied. "Not this time." They moved like smoke slipping through the trees and scaling the back wall. Keanu disabled a camera with a wire snip, and they dropped into the garden below. Birds flew from the branches, startled but silent. Keanu opened the back door with a pry bar, the lock giving in with a soft click. Inside, the house was strangely warm, too warm, like it was trying to pretend it had a heart. Lights hummed above sleek floors. Abstract paintings lined the walls. The smell of rich coffee lingered in the air. They stepped into the hallway. No alarms, no shouting, just the quiet before the storm. They passed a library, a piano room, a private gym. Every corner was luxury, polished and sterile, and then voices, soft muffled, coming from behind a closed door at the end of the hall. Keanu motioned to Isla. She moved beside him, hand on the knife inside her jacket. He opened the door slowly. What they saw wasn't what they expected. Daniel sat at a glass desk, typing on a laptop. Behind him, massive windows opened to the lake. He looked normal, calm, like a man checking emails, not a man who had signed off on a woman's execution. He looked up and smiled. "I was wondering when you'd arrive," he said. Isla stepped forward, voice shaking with fury. "You left me to die." Daniel didn't flinch. He leaned back in his chair. "You weren't supposed to feel pain," he said. "They promised it would be fast, clean, like a dream you never woke up from." Keanu's hands curled into fists. "You knew," he said. "You paid for it." Daniel nodded. "Of course, I saw the early trials. The veil showed me their methods. It was elegant in its way, a chance to start over, to cleanse weakness." He looked at Isla. "You cried when you broke your mother's heirloom necklace," he said. "Do you remember that? A grown woman sobbing for a trinket. It showed me everything." Isla stepped closer, the knife now in her hand. "You proposed to me," she said, voice low. "You kissed me, told me you loved me." "I did," he said softly, "until I saw you weren't strong enough." Keanu moved between them, eyes locked on Daniel. "This ends now. Where are the veil's files?" Daniel's smile faded. "You think this house is where the secrets live? The veil is bigger than you think. This is just a ripple. The real work, the real purge, is still coming. And no one will care, because the world is tired, weak, begging to be sorted." Keanu stepped forward. "Maybe, but they'll care about what you did, and they'll see your face when it goes public." He pulled the flash drive from his jacket. Daniel's eyes widened for the first time. "You found it. We found everything." Keanu placed the drive on the desk, then reached for a second device from his pocket, a small transmitter. He clicked it on. "And now, the whole world will see it." Daniel lunged. Too late. Keanu grabbed him, slammed him into the glass window. Cracks split across the surface. "You're done," Keanu growled. But then, footsteps. From the hallway. Guards. Keanu turned just in time to see the first one appear. Isla moved faster. She ducked low, swept the man's legs, then slammed the hilt of her knife into his temple. Another came through the side. Keanu disarmed him in 2 moves, flipped him over a chair. The room was chaos now. Daniel reached for his laptop, but Isla was already there. She drove the knife down, not into him, but into the laptop. It sparked, cracked, shut down. No more lies, she said. Outside, sirens began to rise in the distance. Keanu smiled slightly. I called them 15 minutes ago, he said. Figured we might need an audience. The police took Daniel. They took the guards. They took the files Keanu had printed and stored, the drive, the footage, everything. It wasn't clean. It wasn't easy. The veil would bury some of it, deny the rest. But it was a start. And the world saw enough to ask questions, enough to look twice. Keanu and Isla stood near the lake that night, silent. The house behind them empty now. She looked at him, eyes red but steady. I don't know what comes next, she said. Me neither, he replied. But you survived, that matters. She nodded slowly. They wanted to break me. They failed, Keanu said. I'm not broken, she whispered. No, he said. You're fireproof. The wind moved gently through the trees. In the distance, the last smoke of what had been drifted into the sky. Ashes never lie, and neither do survivors.